Hello YouTube, Ronan Kazi, screwing up the beginning as normal. It wouldn't be a video without me screwing something up. So, brah, I called it first. I'm the double-edged lightsaber person. Anyways, got some Star Wars, The Old Republic. I started, this is Jedi Knight, with the new system. I'm a shadow. We don't need to talk about that now, but eventually as we get along in the gameplay, I'll explain why. One of the things that I wanted to pick Star Wars specifically, this game, and a BioWare product specifically, is I want to talk to you about good and evil. And I first saw Star Wars in 75 or 76. I didn't get to see it when it premiered. We didn't have enough money. We got to see it like at Dollar Days in Royal Oak, Michigan. I lived in Detroit near the north end. Not the north end, near like 8 Mile. And my mom took me to it. And I have to admit, it was so dope, as the kids would say. It was so amazing to first see it. And the philosophy behind it, the characterization of the good and the evil, the white and the black and everything, made it easy to think this was a story about good and evil, that Jedis were good and Sith were evil. And I'm not going to say, I never imagined myself as Darth Vader, right? He had cool music, but I never imagined myself as that. Never in a million years. Never in my life did I ever want to be like that. And so when this game was going to come out, they had a trailer for it, and they were on, I did that mission with this guy. I don't know if I'm going to do it. It's a long mission, but I remember there was one section in it where the developers were talking about it. The gameplay just looked awesome, and it was a Star Wars game. I played Star Wars Galaxy, but you can never be a Jedi. It made it impossibly hard. I've still played on a server recently, the Star Wars. It's just great, but it's an old game where you got to do things a million times. It's not a modern game. And I'm also trying to do something a little bit different with the camera angle instead of just sitting in the back. So I'm trying to give you a decent idea of what the fights look like. It's not so much important that I'm going to kill the thing. This is Star Wars The Old Republic. I am going to win, and I'm going to kill everything. But why just see it over my shoulder constantly? And the double-bladed lightsaber is cool, and as the Star Wars franchise went on, Darth Maul had a double-bladed, right? He was bad. So you're going through all this thing, and in Star Wars The Old Republic specifically, the choices you make, if you make dark side choices, you will slowly get dark side corruption and it will change your character. But as you play this game, you slowly realize, or at least I did, that I probably wasn't a Republic person. In this game, if I had to be a Republic or an Empire, I'm not for either big government. So I don't want to be in the Empire and doing the Sith bidding, and I don't want to be on the Republic doing their do-gooder crap or their supposed do-gooder crap. And I'm not really, if I had to put myself on this spectrum, I'm probably fiscally conservative and I'm probably socially moderate, maybe even liberal. But that was back when things weren't so, not extreme at all, right? I was in the military for 13 years. I believe in a lot of things the military does for the country. But also when I was in the military, I believed in the things that made it fair for everyone to get ahead. And that's one of the things I liked about it. And if you think about the military, it's an area where you can be whatever you want. If you want to be an E3 for up to 10 years, you can be E3 for up to 10 years. When I first got the Coast Guard, you could have been an E3 or E4 as long as you wanted. Later on, they adopted some naval principles of advance or get out, and you had professional growth points, but they were laughable. You could be like a 15-year E4, and you could retire as an E5. And put that in perspective, retiring at 20 years, I made E6 in 6 years. So this never apply to me. As soon as the minimum amount I could make my rank. The only one, I didn't make Chief E7, but I had 7 years as a E6, right? I probably could have made Chief before I did my 20. I'm positive I could have. But the military let me, it didn't stop anyone from advancing, at least when I was in. It didn't stop anyone from advancing. You could do whatever you wanted. And I advanced really fast. A lot of people didn't like that. But this is about good and evil. So I say all that stuff with the military to say, I'm not your typical, if you knew me, you'd say, okay, I get it, but you don't know me only through these things. But what I'm going to tell you, as I've played these games, I've reconsidered the position that the games espouse, the things that, quote unquote, the bad people, the Sith, are talking about, and the kind of, there's Roxy on cue, and the things that maybe the Republic stand for, and what the, specifically what the Jedi stand for, and what the Sith stand for. And I would make a really big argument that everyone would choose to be a Sith versus a Jedi. If you could still be a badass, Roxy, you're going to get squirted with a Jedi lightsaber watered. Hey, there's some squirt. Keep doing it again. And so if you were just as much as a badass as a Sith, as a Jedi, who wouldn't want to be either one of those, a Force user? So once I re-examined that, then I started looking at, all games and all art and those kind of things. Maybe the top level thing that the artist, the author, the director, the writer, the song person, maybe that first high level thing, the obvious thing, isn't really what they're talking about. And so I know very few people that put others before themselves, like maybe a Jedi. There was one person, and I imagine he wasn't always like this. There is a chief machinery technician in the Coast Guard who had come from the Navy. That guy, he ended up being a monk, a Capuchin monk. So that was a guy. And I didn't come across a lot of people that are putting other people first all the time. And so when you listen to what the Sith in the game at least espouse, you're like, well, yeah, I believe in that. And yeah, I believe in that. And some of the answers I've had to do with this character, they're just not in my character. I want to make my little R2-D2 like me, so I'm extra nice. But in real life, I wouldn't agree with everything I have to say to get R2-D2, TX7, whatever he is, to like me. And so what I want you to consider is good and evil is a little bit more complicated. Again, I've told you in the last videos, try to stay away from binaries. These are like heroic missions I'm doing, but I'm so over leveled, but they're just super easy. And I've said don't be binary. So life isn't black and white. It's more of a graduation. If you answered all these questions honestly in this game, your character, you'd stay right in the middle. Sometimes you'd say, fuck, those people shouldn't get away with it. And sometimes you'd go, it doesn't matter. Let them do whatever.
Thanks,
and so it goes back to that bandwidth. But this is a game, and there's other games like that you can see a tangible thing. If I make all these specific choices, I can make my person appear to be this, that, and the third. Like games like Fable back in the day, if you kill enough of the guards, you're hunted every time you go in the city. They just hunt you. They know you're a bad person.
Do you know what the Imperials are trying to do?
Besides attack mercs on a legit job?
And are you a bad person if you have bad thoughts? I don't know. So to even do a little bit more, there's a philosopher that wrote a book called Beyond Good and Evil. And like I mentioned in the last thing, it's you don't have to read that. Someone else can read it for you and Cliff Notes it for you. And that's kind of what I did. And as I explained what the first bit of the novel is, or the book is, and they go over that quite a bit, and then I listen to a different person's view, and then basically come to the same. One of the points is to get beyond good and evil, to get beyond just life as a binary choice. And a lot of times people aren't doing things altruistically. It's very hard for them. So when I go back over my life and I look at people, they're not being altruistic. A salesperson isn't in their job to look out for you. They're in their job to look out for them. If they're a decent person, they'll get more sales because you'll trust them. You understand implicitly in that social contract, the salesman's trying to sell you something you're trying to buy. You're just hoping he doesn't rip you off. And if the salesman's really good, he or she can listen to you and try to get you to the product that you want. And that's like anything. That's like your pastor giving you the message. But none of these people are doing it because they just really love humanity. They don't. It's very hard. And that was one of the things about that book, Beyond Good and Evil. But the thing I really want to focus in on is don't be binary. I had someone say that to me once, and I don't think I was binary, but that's how they saw me, which is a whole different animal. I recently was talking to Mrs. Ronan Kazi, and I was telling her for my job I was doing some videos too. She goes, "You really like to do videos?" I'm like, "I've done like 300 in the last 6 months." "Yeah, but you like to do videos." And so even someone that lives with me maybe doesn't understand, right? Maybe I didn't share that with her because there's a certain outward person that we all have, and there's an internal person. I probably was an artist. I wrote a lot when I was younger, painted a lot. But once you have children, you gotta make money so they can eat and have shoes, and you can give them the things that you couldn't. At least that's the bill of goods I was sold. So we've talked about a couple of these higher level concepts. This is not the first time I've talked to you about like a bandwidth or a certain way to frame things, to not go all out, to not go all the way down, to have like an area, a continuum of things. So when people say, "I don't feel like this, I kind of feel like this," yes, I allow that. But if I'm going to allow people to have their continuum, they also got to have some things are not continuum. Some things are. The edges of this bracketing is a high and a low. There's infinity and zero. You can't say, "Well, I don't believe in infinity." I mean, you can say that, and you can think you could say, "I don't believe in zero." You can say that. That doesn't mean I have to live in that world with you, because that doesn't make any sense. And those people on the James Webb, they're in a lot of denial, the scientists. But that guy has my sword, so now you're going to see us square off. Thank YouTube. Like, subscribe, share. Don't be binary. This isn't a fight between good and evil. This is a fight between a hater trying to take my double-edged lightsaber. You're not going to put your garbage on me, bro. How about I do this to you? Throw some rocks at him. Come on, Ronan Kazi, throw some rocks. Bam! What up now? Hey, YouTube, appreciate you. Ronan Kazi, like, share, subscribe. Dingy bell. Out.